These days, work is in trouble. We've outsourced most of our manufacturing to other countries. And with that, we sent away good jobs and our capability to make things. American Giant is a clothing company that's pushing back against this tide. They make all kinds of high-quality clothing and activewear, like sweatshirts, jeans, dresses, jackets, and so much more, right here in the USA. So when you buy American Giant, you create jobs in towns and cities across the country. And jobs bring pride, purpose. They stitch people together. If all that sounds good to you, visit American-Giant.com and get 20% off your first order when you use code STAPLE20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with promo code STAPLE20.
Everything from clothing to household items are getting more expensive each day. The world of fast fashion has complicated clothing production by outsourcing around the world to whoever can sew them the cheapest. And now you, the consumer, are paying the price with rising costs. American Giant is about keeping things simple and close to home. They aren't affected by tariffs because their products never leave the U.S. So when you buy from American Giant, you're taking a stand for hardworking people, local communities, and quality clothes. American Giant directly supports American manufacturers and ensures you aren't footing that tariff bill. Support American-made, tariff-free clothing with American Giant. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off when you use code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com.
People arrested.
They're not reporting the real numbers.
The numbers are segmented and they are fictitious.
I started my career in 1997 in the United States Border Patrol. It was one of the most violent times in recent Border Patrol history. I made my bones and my reputation on that border. I believe what is happening on the border today is intentional.
We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them.
Our own government is facilitating the absolute destruction of the American immigration system, and I can prove it point by point. I'm unafraid to speak the truth. This is just data-driven and experience-driven.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for your leadership in bringing the country's attention to what has been happening here at the border and the significant change that has already occurred under the short time that President Trump has been in office. Really what you're seeing here today and what you'll continue to see is a unified effort across President Trump's national security team, the Department of Homeland Security, towards our mission, which is to ensure a safe, free, and prosperous society for Americans. As Director of National Intelligence, there are a number of areas where we are focused. The President talked about in his speech, over 21 million people have come across our borders illegally under Joe Biden's administration. There are many of them that we don't know who they are. They have not been vetted. We don't know where they are. I'll give you one quick example of one of the problems that we are getting after. From Central Asia, there were over 4,000 people who came across our borders using an ISIS-affiliated network. Our National Counterterrorism Center went through and identified those individuals. There were hundreds of them who were either known terrorists or associated with known terrorists. That information was provided to the Biden administration. You may remember in some of the news, a little over 100 of those people were arrested in 2024. Of those who were arrested, only 8 were either deported or remained in custody. Only 8. The rest of them were released back into our country. Where are they? What are they doing? What may they be plotting? This is just the beginning. There are many, many areas that we need to stay very focused on, working with the Department of Homeland Security, working with the FBI to ensure that we're keeping the American people safe. Our Counterterrorism Center is working on making sure that we have that single source for vetting so that we can figure out who is actually in our country and identify those who pose a threat and get them removed. The President's designation of the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations falls directly into this, especially as we're seeing some of the tactics that these cartels are using reflect some of the tactics that we've seen used by Islamist terrorists in countries that many of us have served in overseas. Our mission is very clear. Our objective is to keep the American people safe. I'm grateful to be a part of this team that President Trump has assembled to accomplish that mission. Thank you.
You were at the border yesterday, fabulous,
Yes.
with the Vice President, the Secretary of Defense. Now, you revealed that the Biden administration, I didn't believe this headline, that they deported only 8 out of 100 illegals with ties to ISIS? That can't be. I mean, I actually can't even believe that's true. 8 out of 100?
I had the same doubts that you had when I got this information from our National Counterterrorism Center, because it is inconceivable to me to have a commander-in-chief and a president who would knowingly return those who are either known or suspected terrorists or those who had very close ties with known or suspected terrorists back onto our streets in their country. But unfortunately, it's exactly what happened. There were over 400 illegal immigrants who came from Central Asia into our country. Of those, there were hundreds who had either ties to terrorists or were terrorists themselves. As you said, the Biden administration arrested a bunch and then let them all go back into our country, other than 8. So this is where we are working very closely with the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, with our National Counterterrorism Center, to make sure that we find them, that we remove them, and that we have the vetting in place to take this action to remove those from our country immediately who pose a threat.
Before the break, we were talking about a new report that says 8 men with potential ties to ISIS were arrested in the United States. They all crossed through the southern border. The FBI director previously warned Congress of the elevated terror threat posed by the surge of illegal migrants. Joining us now is retired U.S. Marine Jessie Jane Duff. Jessie Jane, great to see you today. So we don't know much about their plans, but we know that they were arrested in multiple states. It could have been a widespread threat. We know that they mentioned they had heard about bombs. Do you believe, now we know 8 have been apprehended, but do you think there's more people who are out there who are part of this group?
It would be absolutely naive of us to believe that there aren't others. And these are the only ones that we have been told about. We don't know how many others that are under surveillance right now. But ultimately, if they're here illegally, why are they even under surveillance? They should not even be allowed to stay, even if there's a remote suspicion of terrorist ties. Why are we waiting for something to happen? That is what makes this very curious to me, is that they came and entered illegally. 2 of them that were arrested had already been under surveillance for some time. And it begs to question, you're aware they're here. The FBI had to tip off ICE that they were here, but yet they were allowed to stay while under surveillance. It almost just seems like a complete setup. When
Chair Turner, shortly after that, you said on this program, we have terrorists that are actively working inside the United States that are a threat to Americans. Do you know if there are active terror cells in the United States right now?
Well, I think the issue of cells, and you and I were talking about that at the beginning of the show, are there individuals that are affiliated with ISIS and terrorist groups and organizations that have crossed the border, that are inside the United States? Director Wray, FBI director, has said so. We certainly have intelligence that says so. I agree with his assessment. Jim has also seen it. He's testified before our committee publicly of that fact. Those individuals are working in conjunction with ISIS with the intention of harming Americans. The director has said it directly.
They are known to U.S. intelligence and law enforcement.
And we are working diligently to try to take them down, to prevent them from doing so. And that's why the director is publicly saying such. And that's what the new administration is going to be handed. The fact that these individuals are here, that we need to locate them, we need to remove them, we need to bring them to justice and prevent them from doing harm to Americans.
Most of the people who come are involved in smuggling. This video shows attempted human smuggling in New York last year, stopped by Border Patrol.
Are the drug cartels behind this?
Some may be, some might not be.
Last fiscal year, Border Patrol apprehended 564 people on the terror watch list. Of them, 484 were encountered on the northern border. The questions are, why here? Why now? Eric says one of the reasons is Canadian foreign policy. Up until a few weeks ago, Canada did not require Mexicans and some other foreign nationals to have travel visas to fly to the country.
For a very minimal fee, they would be able to enter the country as a tourist. Some folks utilizing the ETA program were being arrested here in the United States for illegal entry within 24 hours of their landing in Canada.
Can you send them back to Canada?
Unfortunately, no.
Why they're coming may differ too.
They're trying to find that vulnerability and come into the United States without detection.
J.J. Carrell, let me break this down. What Tulsi Gabbard, DNI director, is saying, and Laura Ingraham misunderstood, is
400 of the 4,000 from Asia were determined to be terrorists. They can split hairs and say they were terrorists and some ties to terrorism, some on and on. They love to split hairs. And Joe Biden's administration arrested and deported 8 of them. 392 were released. Now, I'm also going to tell you that the 4,000 total, the 3,992 that they released, I'm going to tell you all of them were single adult military-age men. All of them had ties to terrorism. And they released them all. I played that long opening because I want to drill home the fact that our federal government has allowed in, Logan just pulled this up. I want you to take a notice of this. This is every single day in the Joe Biden administration. Every single day. What do you see? Just watch it. Can you play it again, Logan? So on the screen, look again. What do you see? Look closer. You see all males, all military-age males, all males from the Middle East, continent of Africa, Venezuela, and Haiti. That's what you see. And I'm telling you, from a guy that was there that first year, the guy that went back there to write a book in 2023, the guy that went back again to film documentaries in 2024. This was an every single day occurrence on the border. Colleagues were sending me pictures and videos of that scenario you're seeing right there. 2,000 Middle Eastern and continent Africa individuals. 2,000 in San Diego for weeks on end. And then the cartels move the landing spot. Our government has never, ever, our country has never, ever been this vulnerable, ever in the history of America. Listen to what we're freaking out. We, the media, we, America, are freaking out about what Tulsi Gabbard says. I've been saying this for years. And I want you to understand that Asian subset that Tulsi Gabbard was talking about is just that. It's a subset. That's not the total. That's not like, hey, we had 4,000 people crossed and we identified and arrested all 4,000 of them. Pat on the back, great job. Then we found out some were terrorists and we let them go. No. That 4,000 was like a 2-day scenario in Imperial Beach, California, in San Diego sector. 2 days. 2 days, 4,000 people. The United States federal government openly admitted through DHS and the CBP.gov website that the Border Patrol had arrested in 4 years over 200,000 special interest aliens. Special interest aliens are named SIAs, and SIAs are terrorists. Terrorists. Let me put it to you this way, a different way. My young son, we're driving the other day, and we get onto the topic. We're watching a podcast, and it gets on the topic of terror watch list. And I say to my young son, Joseph, you don't believe that every single terrorist is on that watch list, do you? And he's like, I don't understand, Dad. And I said, Joseph, there's 8 billion people on planet Earth. In order to believe that the federal government has every terrorist is on that watch list, that means the United States American government had to have vetted 8 billion people. And my son at 13 says, well, that's absurd, Dad. Of course that list can't be all-encompassing. Yes, son. That's called critical thinking, Joseph. My point is that list is just a list. And it's not all-encompassing. I would say that list probably captures 3% of the terrorists. And I'm being generous. You have nations across the Middle East that we have decimated. So now we're going on the second or third generation of complete annihilation, living in rubble, living with no electricity, living with no running water, living in hell. So you're telling me there's the terrorist hotline when you swear an oath to ISIS or Hamas or Hezbollah, or you start your own group, you actually call this FBI hotline? Yeah, this is Mohammed from Sudan. I just want you to know that I am now affiliated with Hamas or Sudanese rebels, whatever the hell. Put me on the list, please. You see how absurd that is? I'm telling you, the federal government has admitted to over 200,000 special interest aliens. They were less arrested and then released. And I'm telling you that number is 4 to 5 times. 4 to 5 times minimum. And anyone that has worked on the border and anyone that has any idea of the reality will back me on that. I don't even have to preface. I can just say, how many terrorists, special interest aliens do you believe are in America in the last 4 years? A million. Million, absolutely. A million. That should frighten you, America. Should scare you. Everything is coming to the surface. Everything is. This is the age of awakening. Everything that we're talking about, everything that's being exposed by Doge and Tulsi Gabbard and Vance and Trump and on, is all coming to the surface. We are now watching it manifest in front of us, and it's going to shock us to the core. It's going to crumble our foundation. I swear it is. When you realize how corrupt our government is. Look, I just did a take on the vault, and the Congresswoman Harriet from Wyoming is talking about how every agency in the government launders their money. Her words, not mine. Launders the money. And this is how it goes. She's 100% right. She said, take the Department of Education, for example. Take the Department of Education, then it has a $280 billion budget. That gets pushed into consultants. Consultants then give it to NGOs or other consultants. And then those consultants, after it's been washed twice, give it to NGOs. And then those NGOs give it to other NGOs that have politicians sitting on the boards of those NGOs. And they get paid. And then we go around and around and around we go. That's how the politicians are becoming millionaires 10, 20, 100, 200 times over. Yeah, that's how it's happening. Everything is going to come to the surface, and we are going to see it for what it is. And then Americans are going to have a very, very difficult decision, not a hard decision for me, but a very difficult decision. Are we going to punish all of those people and hold them responsible for their treason, or are we not? As simple as that. Sponsor for today, before I bring in our weekly guest, who I love talking to, Chris from SAT123, is Bella Grace. Shop bellagrace.com/truth. Shop bellagrace.com/truth. I got my today. I'm proud. I came into my wife and said, look, honey, we got our restorative sleep gummies. They came in today. Thank goodness. And we're going to try them tonight. And I'll tell you how it's going to go. I'll tell you how it goes on Monday. Did I fall asleep like it says? Did I wake up groggy, or did I wake up feeling refreshed? I'm going to tell you. Dr. Lucky says this is the real deal. He did it himself. He helped create it. My wife, we're getting the elixir tomorrow. That's what my tracker says. So my wife and I are both going to begin to take the elixir. It has all the collagen you need in it. It reproduces and help reproduce your skin, make your skin, your nails, your hair, everything better. And I need that as I get older. Get dry, wrinkly hands and arms and skin, and I need it. Brandon House and his beautiful wife, Melissa, absolutely swear by it. Swear by it so much it says if I go on vacation and I don't bring it with me, I feel it. I feel the difference. That's all I needed to hear from them. I'm going to give it a shot. My wife's going to try it, and we will tell you, and we will be honest with you about it. I can't wait. I'm going to take a sleep gummy tonight, and I'm going to go to sleep and get my mind to slow down, because I have to go to a Lincoln's Days dinner tomorrow in St. Louis and give a speech. And I need to have a good night's sleep, and I have to have clarity. And that's what I'm hoping that this product from Bella Grace gives me. BellaGrace.com/truth. Shop BellaGrace.com/truth. All right. To my guest, who I love talking to on Friday, Chris from sat123.com. Come on in, Chris.
Hi, JJ. Sounds like I'm in the wrong business, mate. I should be a politician with an NGO and a consulting arm.
Yes, I think what you should do is get Sat123 to become an NGO, and then you can launder the money yourself, and you can make even more than you can imagine. Let me give you an example. I don't know if you heard this. John Podesta set up an NGO 4 months ago, or 4 months prior to Joe Biden being ousted or Kamala Harris not winning. 4 months with no money in it at all. Got $7 billion from Joe Biden for climate research. $7 billion to John Podesta, to an organization he just set up. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I believe it, and I'm sure this goes on across the government. I mean, laundering money is profitable, right? That's what I hear. So
it's frustrating as Americans, as you have a business and you're trying to run it and be successful. And like Brandon House is running Worldview Tube, and I'm part of this, and I'm trying to grow my platform. And to hear that U.S. aid has diverted all that money to 700 news channels and then 6,000 journalists. So my point is, you have people that are competing against you in your market space, and I have people competing against me in my market space, which is great. That's capitalism. But it's not capitalism when they're funded by the government. So they crowd you out. Can you imagine if I gave Sat123, say, $10 million a year for 4 years, what your company could do as far as marketing, reach, to see those great products you have? It would be unbelievable. Am I wrong on that?
No, of course you're not. And, we'd love to get money, but not from the government. We like to make a profit and reinvest that. That's how, that's the American way. Look, I come from England, grew up under a socialist government where the government ran everything. They ran the trains, the post office, they built the cars. And guess what? We had lousy cars. The trains, they were always on strike. They never ran, and the post office didn't deliver. And that was because the governments aren't meant to run businesses. They're meant to support businesses and encourage them to grow and give them an environment where they can grow and compete fairly in an open marketplace. I mean, that's why I came to this country, because that's what it's all about. And I came here with nothing, and I've made a little bit for myself. But I didn't have anything when I got here. And I think that's the beauty of America, is that you can start with nothing and you can make something of yourself. But it's hard to compete against companies that are being basically subsidized by the government. And getting free handouts and free money when we're having to work for every penny that we make. That's not a fair marketplace or an open marketplace. I don't think that corporate welfare, I'm not a big fan of corporate welfare.
No, neither am I. And I believe in companies that are built here in America. And Sat123 is one of those companies. And one of the products I want to talk to you about today is the Starlink. And I have it down as the Starlink Standard Gen 3. And why that caught my eye as I'm going through the products, and I'm just familiarizing myself because I have several of the products, but I'm looking at what do I need to be prepared. And I see Starlink, and then everything that, if you just type in Starlink in Google, wow, everyone is attacking Elon Musk. Everyone's attacking the Starlink system. Tell us what your ideas on how they're attacking him, but your product is that makes you connected with Starlink, because I think that is the absolute future of technology. In I don't think it's going to be cell towers anymore. I think it's all going to be off of satellites. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely correct. Because look, if you have something that relies on cell towers or utilities that are based on the ground, they can be attacked, right? They can be taken up, blown up, they can be destroyed, and that takes out cell phone service. Even with these undersea cables that we were talking about just last week, JJ, and on the day I was talking about the Chinese attacking these undersea internet cables, what happened? But the same thing happened. I don't know who attacked these cables, but it was just outside of near Juneau, Alaska. And Juneau was left without power. So was left without internet and cell phone service for up to the last week. And this is the second major attack on these undersea cables in Alaska this year already. There was a cable cut in northern Alaska early in January. But when you have ground-based infrastructure, that's what happens. Things can be attacked and taken out. The beauty of Starlink is that these satellites are up in the sky. They're low Earth orbit satellites, and they are broadcasting their signal all over the world. So whatever's going on where you are, whether you're you're unfortunately in the Carolinas with these terrible wildfires right now, whatever, you're going to be seeing outages of internet and cell phone and everything else, power. And the only way that you can get connected in those areas is via Starlink. And the Starlink Gen 3 unit, which you were talking about, if you go back to Google and search Starlink Gen 3 and click shopping, you'll see what everyone else is charging for this unit. It's up to $600 or more just for the unit, and then you're paying the monthly. But at sat123.com, we are doing that unit for free with activation. So right off the bat, you're saving $600. You're getting the great Gen 3 unit, which is highly portable, only weighs about 6 pounds. Wherever you are on Earth, you point that thing at the sky and you can get connected to the internet. And all you're paying for is around $200 a month. You're getting 500 gigabits of priority service. That means the highest speed internet service you can get, and then unlimited data after that. But JJ, this is what you need to be prepared. Obviously we're seeing a lot of turmoil around the world right now, and that's probably only going to continue. Our foes around the world are seeking and feeling more empowered to attack us. And President Trump, of course, is letting them know what's going to happen. But we as Americans and patriots need to be self-reliant to whatever degree possible. And if you've tried living without your phone or without the internet, even for a day, you know what it's like. Imagine not having that for a week or a month or more. Society breaks down when people can't communicate. So to keep our society together, we need to be prepared with the Starlink internet, with at sat123.com. You're getting the free Gen 3 unit with activation, just $200 a month. And JJ, we're still doing the free satellite phone with activation. You're paying just $99 a month. And between those two things right there, you have full communications for internet and voice and text and everything else, no matter where you are, all the time, guaranteed. And lastly, I'll throw into that we have these power banks, rechargeable power banks or solar powered power banks that can make sure that you have electricity to power those devices. Again, no matter what, the power grid goes down, no problem. We have units that can power your phone, your Starlink unit, even your entire house. These are solar powered units, JJ, that can power anything up to your entire house. And of course, those cost a bit more, around $3,000 to $5,000 for those units. But how'd you like to be without power for the next month? Nobody would,
No, you're absolutely right. And you just hit on the last thing I wanted to talk to you about because I just saw it on your website, is your portable power bank. I love that. I just ordered it actually today because I travel quite a bit and I get into rental cars, et cetera, and I don't have the right cord, right? Because my charging cord is obsolete because there's a new Apple, or I'm in the airport and the electrical chargers, they don't work. The electrical plugs, they don't work. And then I look at the bank where I'm supposed to charge my phone. Everyone's got like 8,000 wires coming. There's no room for me, and I'm losing power. My phone, my plane's going to leave in 30 minutes. I need power. My computer doesn't have it as well. So it's interesting that when I go to Sat123 and I start to go through all the products, I need those products, not as a luxury. I need them for survival because I believe, and on this show, it talks about being prepared. Just be prepared. And one last plug for product on Sat123 is, it sounds crazy, but my son has a backpack that you guys sell that has a ballistic shield in there. That I hate that I I love that I have that for my son, but I hate that in the society today that my son needs that backpack. But I think we need to be prepared.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Look, it's terrible that we need that, but the only thing worse than that is not having one. You know, we've all seen what happens to these school shootings. It's horrific. A gunman goes into a classroom. Nobody lives through that. They have a AR-15 or whatever they have, an automatic weapon. They kill everyone in there, and because these kids have no protection, right? You hide behind a wooden desk. That's not going to help you. You know, you hide behind someone else. That doesn't even help you, you know. But that's why we developed this backpack, JJ. It is, you know, first and foremost, we're sick and tired of seeing all these kids get killed and slaughtered, right? So we came up with a backpack, which, look, every parent is buying their kids backpacks and paying $100, $200, $300 or more. But that backpack does nothing more than hold books. This backpack has a Kevlar shield that is certified by the NIJ up to level 3A, meaning it'll stop very powerful handguns up to a 44 Magnum or automatic caliber weapons up to 9mm, but it gives your kids a fighting chance. You know, I wish we could develop a product that would guarantee that you could live through anything. We're not there yet. But this will give your kids a fighting chance. They can hold it in front of them, and it will, you know, it will make a difference. So we've not stopped those bullets entirely, you know. So this is great for kids, of course. It's essential, I think. But look, I mean, you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, going to work in Manhattan at 6:30 in the morning. You get shot in the back. You know, I mean, you just don't know. It can happen anywhere. Gun violence, you know, is a problem, and there are crazy mad people out there and criminals armed to the teeth. And you need to be prepared for that as well. And JJ, that unit is that backpack is $200 only on sale from $250, but free if you get a satellite phone. You get a free satellite phone, a free backpack right now, and then you just pay the activation $95 a month. You know, but this is a lifesaver, and anyone with children should really take a serious look at this.
Absolutely. And my son, as I've said this over and over again on my show, Chris, my son is very respectful of his things that he has. However, he's a 13-year-old boy with a backpack. They thrash him. They're just thrashed. My son's backpack looks brand new. He's had it from the very beginning of school and nothing. And every other backpack that I've ever bought him is by the end of the school year, it's falling apart. The strap's coming off, not this. And you would think it would be extremely heavy. My son says, I asked him, how does it feel? He goes, I don't feel any difference. So it just is protective. And my son thinks he's the coolest guy in school because he has a ballistic shield. So I love the products of Sat123. Chris, thank you for coming on. I appreciate this every weekly talk with you and about the products with Sat123. Have a great day. Have a great weekend in Colorado. Hope it warms up. It's warming up here in Kansas. So I hope that you get a little taste of spring this weekend.
We'd like that. Thanks so much, JJ. Have a great weekend, mate. See you.
You too. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Sat123.com. Go to sat123.com/JJ. Like I tell you, you want a product or you need a product, please visit the people that sponsor our shows, the people that sponsor World YouTube as we grow, as our platform gets bigger and bigger, and we are growing. Truth with JJ Carrell is growing exponentially every single day. Our numbers are continually to spike and grow every week and every month. And then by next year, I hope this show is reaching beyond what we even imagined. So please go to our sponsors, sat123.com. All right. Who ran our country for 4 years? I'd like to know that. That is the new big topic. And you know why it's the new big topic? Because when we get down to the bottom of it and we find out who's been running it, and it's not been Joe Biden, well, guess what? Everything that was pushed out through executive orders, through pardons, through laws, they're null and void. We are in a constitutional crisis in America. Absolutely. Logan, can you pull up this? It's an article, I think from Missouri AG. If you can pull that up, I'm gonna read it off of my phone. Okay. So this is the Attorney General of Missouri, which is right across the way from me, Andrew Bailey. Listen to what he writes on X today. He posts a a picture of his investigation. Breaking. I am demanding the DOJ investigate whether President Biden's cognitive decline allowed unelected staff to push through radical policy without his knowing approval. If true, these executive orders, pardons, and all other actions are unconstitutional and legally void. That, my friends, is a constitutional crisis, and it's not going away. And everybody knows it. Lindy Lee, is it Lindy Lee? L-I is her last name. Lindy Lee, I believe she is a first generation, or maybe not even, first generation Chinese naturalized citizen. I believe her parents came over from China and then brought her when she was already born in China. I think that's the story. Don't quote me on that. She was on Sean Ryan show. She was on Glenn Beck. She was on Tucker Carlson. She was the money. She was the major fundraiser for the Dems. And she had a front row seat to the Biden debacle. And she couldn't take it anymore. And she blew the whistle and tried to help and say, hey, we can't keep doing this. We can't keep acting as if this man's okay. He's not okay. And then she said, I couldn't do it anymore. I had to just come out and say the truth. And she's saying that he hasn't been in charge for years. So who has been the president? And do you not think that that's treason? Meaning you kept it quiet that the man in charge, that we all knew, but you knew because you were in the inner circle, you knew that he had a mental deficiency, he had dementia, Alzheimer's, he had something where he could not function correctly. And you didn't say anything. Why didn't you say anything? Because the next person up will have staff and you will be removed from your duties. You will lose all your power and authority. You will lose all of your contacts. Thus, you will lose millions upon millions of dollars. So you lied to the American public and you hid a demented old fool in order to retain power. So we were not run by a democracy. We were run by a tyrannical group of people. That's the truth. Let's look at this. Listen to Speaker Johnson. This is right after the election. But I want you to think of something while you're listening to Speaker Johnson as he retells this when he realized that Joe Biden wasn't there. And ask yourself one question. Why didn't you say anything, Speaker Johnson? Just a simple question. Go ahead and play this one, please.
Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, And he looks at me stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
Well, see, I have fear and loathing, more loathing, no fear of you, sir. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't anyone say anything? Why didn't you bring it up? I don't care. Don't tell me that, well, it wouldn't have got past the Senate. I don't care. Why didn't you make that a massive, massive thing to talk about? Get on the House steps, call all the people in there and say, our president, President Biden, is mentally unfit to be president. And then drumbeat that day after day. But you didn't. Here's someone else that had a very interesting story and didn't say anything either. A very smart man, but someone I don't agree with a lot of the times, but he is a smart man, and that's Senator Lee from Utah. Listen to this story that he tells.
The ballrooms. She said instinctively, I just said, "Oh, hello, Mr. President. It's good to see you." He asked her, "Do you work in the East Wing?" And she said, No, Mr. President. I'm Sharon Lee, Senator Mike Lee's wife. He swore me into the Senate twice, and we had interacted with him a lot, and she thought that would take care of it. He looked confused. Moments later, he said, "Do you work in the West Wing?" And he was not quite there. Whoa. Moments later, someone came up to him and had a phone in her hand and said, "Hey, my brother-in-law is a big fan. It's his birthday. Will you say hi to him?" This is Biden's signature move. He's really, really good at this. Excellent.
Hey, Logan, I'm going to go to...
It rang. The woman's brother-in-law answered, "Hello," and then he got a confused look on his face, held out the phone, hung it up, and handed the phone back. Now that for Joe Biden is very significant. Very significant.
And this is sitting president of the United States.
Yes, yes. And this was, I believe, a year and a half, perhaps a little more than 2 years ago. We would see little snippets like this.
That's a big snippet.
Why was this was the worst kept secret, right? Everybody knew. But there is power when the congressmen and senators come together and say, that man's unfit. That man should not be president, and there are unelected people that are running our country. Why did we not hear that? You all know why. Because they're all in it together. All of them. And to prove my point on that, just let's go to fantasy land and we remove Trump. Trump doesn't even exist. He's not even a person. Do you think that we're doing anything that's happening right now? Anything. I mean, anything. You think the border's shut down? You think the Department of Education is going to be closed? Do you think that DOJ is going in and destroying all of the corruption and fraud? Do you think there's now two genders? You think men can't be in women's sports? I mean, hell, I can go on and on and on all day of what Trump's doing. Are you really going to have an intellectual discussion with me and say that any one of these Republicans would step in and do what he's doing? Or do you think everything would still be going same? Nothing changes. Well, we'd always hear, we always heard this, didn't we? Well, you know, things move slow in Washington. You just can't turn that ship around. Oh, really? We went from over 5 to 20,000 entries a single day to 200. To 200. The border's complete. You can't put the military on the border. The military's on the border. Giant planes that turn their wings up into a helicopter, I forget what it's called, and they're buzzing the border fence. Military's everywhere. You can't do that? Why can't I do that? Well, you know, because the government moves slow. No, it doesn't. Not under Donald Trump, it doesn't. Well, the Department of Education will never be able to do anything with it. Oh, really? Miss Linda McMahon, start tearing it down. Yes, sir, Mr. President. She's starting to tear down the Department of Education. Well, we can't do anything with all these transgender freaks in our high schools and colleges playing sports. Oh, yeah, I can. Executive order, remove them all. If anybody does allow that to happen, strip them of all their federal money. Oh, well, Donald Trump did that. You know what? We're going to go in. We're going to get the most powerful, richest entrepreneur. That's his intellect is off the chart. I'm going to convince that man named Elon Musk to work for free with a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds, and they're going to go in all their geek stuff, and they're going to dive into all the fraud, waste, and abuse, and they're going to find billions, hundreds of billions, into trillions of dollars of waste, and we're gonna right-size this budget. We're going to balance this budget. Oh, who's going to do that? Speaker Johnson? Who's going to do that? Is that Jim Jordan without his jacket on, all tough, talking tough words and tough letters? Who else is going to do it? Lindsey Graham? Oh, we didn't even mention Ukraine. We're going to stop paying Ukraine. Oh, who's going to stop that? Lindsey Graham with his best friend Zelensky? Who's going to start? Mitch McConnell, who's falling down because he's having strokes mid-stride? Who's going to do it? The leader of the Senate, Thune, the wooden Indian, the pencil? He's going to do it. He has enough charisma to do nothing. Who is going to lead this country if there is no Trump? And the answer is no one. And that's where I get very anxious, because I know the vile, evil left know that too. And they know if they can get to him and kill him, then they will win. And if they don't, they know they're going to lose, because they are losing every single day. I don't trust the Republican Party. I trust them a fraction more than I trust the Democrats, and I have zero trust for the Democrats. I voted for Donald Trump. I voted for him in spite of the R next to his name. I did not vote for the Republican Party. They do not represent me. The only reason Speaker Johnson is doing anything is because he's afraid, he's scared to death of the alpha. That's it. Everything that I wrote in my book, I have a new book that just came out 3 weeks ago. It hit the bestseller again. It stayed steady for bestseller for almost 16 days, dropped out, and then just came back in and out the last 3 days. Treason. You can find it at Amazon.com. It is a bestseller in multiple categories. And why I'm bringing it up is because everything I wrote in that book, and I finished writing that book around the second week of January. So everything is very current. And everything that is being everything is being exposed by Doge and Donald Trump is validating every single thing I wrote. Everything I wrote about what Joe Biden, Mayorkas, Kamala Harris, and that cabal did to America because they're traitors and committed treason, Trump is validating through Doge, through USAID, through Donald Trump securing the border within 24 hours. This was treason, and our federal government purposely, strategically, and intentionally opened our borders and flooded our nation with 30 million illegal aliens to fundamentally transform the United States of America demographically. Not demographically through race, but through demographics from citizens to non-citizens. Everything that I have said and everything I wrote in that book is actually being validated as we speak in real time. It is exciting to me that everything I wrote that I knew in the depth of my heart was the truth, because I experienced it, I researched it, I lived it, now is being validated as 100% factually true. I feel vindicated because I've been called all kinds of vile names. I've been in the House, called a racist, a liar, a xenophobe, a white nationalist. I've been called all that. I've been slandered in articles. I've been told, oh, that's crazy to say 30 million people crossed the border. That's crazy that there's terrorists in our nations. That guy's crazy. Really? No, actually, I'm right on the mark, dropping bombs right over the target, hitting the target square. And I have been for my whole entire career. Go to Amazon and please purchase Treason. Just type in Treason, JJ, you'll pop up. All right. I had an incredible interview yesterday. Incredible interview. And I had an interview with this wonderful lady in November. And it was Dr. Juliet Engel for The Vault. And Dr. Juliet Engel, talk about being validated. She and I had a very incredible conversation in November about MK Ultra and sex magic, because she was sold by her family and her parents into the MK Ultra sex magic program that has been validated as true in the church commissions. CIA admitted, yes, they did this. And then in December of 2024, and Dr. Engel just got the link and was able to, they did it so quietly. In December, the National Archives released 1,200 pages of evidence, damning evidence. 1,200 pages of the people involved with the creation, the facilitating, the funding of MK Ultra. And every single thing Dr. Engel told us was validated, proven to be 100% true. If you want to go back and watch that interview, be prepared. It ain't for the faint of heart, and it's going to shock you that your federal government did this to thousands of Americans. Thousands. One of in this document dump, and I told Dr. Engel, there's so much shocking in what our government did. But one thing, it was a pharmaceutical, Eli Lilly, was the main producer, pharmaceutical producer of LSD for the CIA. And Eli Lilly was selling LSD to the CIA in tonnage, not in pounds or kilos, in tonnage. Do you know how many people CIA ruined the lives of thousands of people, probably tens of thousands, for people to digest tonnage or tonnages of LSD? This isn't, Logan pulled up a clip of Dr. Engel and our discussion from yesterday. She is a wonderful, beautiful, intelligent woman, a survivor, not just a survivor, but someone survived and then just was incredibly successful in her life in so many different ways. And one of my favorite people. Watch this. So one of the major drugs that they use, or it's in this document they focus in on, is LSD. And I was telling you off camera before we came on, there are so many unbelievable statements in this document. However, one that popped out at me real quick was the drug manufacturer, pharmaceutical Eli Lilly, was making LSD, and they were selling it in the tonnage. That's their word. They were selling it in the weight of tonnage. That is unbelievable that they were selling tonnages to Mr. White, Mr. Gottlieb, this whole MK Ultra CIA apparatus. That's a lot of people have to digest tonnage, ma'am. Like, that's thousands of people.
I'm telling you, there were thousands of people that were victimized in this program, and a very large percentage of them died. And I think when they brought in like the kids from the orphanages, they didn't care if they lived or died. Us, they had to keep alive. They didn't exist, right? We did exist. Those of us who came in through our family connections and they would call us the bloodlines, we did exist. And there is a document in those files where it's in the mid to late 60s, they start realizing that they're killing too many American kids, and this is going to draw attention to them. So then they make the proposal, they have to start using foreign kids, and they start programs to import kids into like military schools and programs inside the United States so they can use those kids to experiment, because nobody's protecting them. They don't have a Bill of Rights. Whereas sooner or later, I was going to figure out that I had a Bill of Rights, and I didn't have to potentially put up with this. They were afraid of us living long enough to sue them, which is why they tried to make us program to commit suicide in our late 20s. And,
has there been a lawsuit brought from survivors?
No, there couldn't be, because they denied everything. You know, no documents, no proof.
Yeah, but now you have documents and you have proof. So one of the major drugs that they use, I could talk to her forever. Thinking about the things that she tells me are shocking. Her story, the reason why I say I can talk to her forever, because her story is powerful. It's a story of being a survivor and overcoming odds that I don't believe 99.9% of Americans would ever survive. She's a hero. She's a treasure to this nation. Incredible. Go to the vault. We store everything. I do a daily take on the vault. I have now, I think, Logan, I could be wrong, about 7 or 8 longer interviews, and we're doing interviews constantly, at least 1 or 2 a week. I'm very excited about just jamming the vault full of interviews that are going to be captivating. I interview people that I think that I am very interested in, and I believe that translate to my audience, so what you would find entertaining and want to learn from. So go to the vault, worldyoutube.com/JJ. And then one of my sponsors that I want to touch on before I move on, my time's going so fast. That's when you know you have a good show, when it's going fast, is patriotsmade.com. Patriots with an S, made.com. And my pitch is very simple. Why are we spending our money on box stores or on products that are run by companies that despise us, that do not like what we believe in, and that fund through their profits organizations that are antithetical to our belief? And the answer is you should not. But where do I go? Where you go to patriotsmade.com. And then you purchase products that are unbelievably and ironically green, all natural. There's no metals or dyes in their shampoo. There's no metals in their lotion. There's no plastics in their food. There's no anything. Go to patriotsmade.com/JJ. Logan, I only got 3.5 minutes. What am I going to talk about? I want to talk about the lie on the border, the propaganda lie. What am I talking about? The lie that President can't close the border. President can't do anything. Joe Biden, he was just victimized by the Congress and the Republicans. They couldn't, because they wouldn't fund the shutting of the border down. That's a lie. I've been screaming that's a lie forever. But let's listen to a compilation of Democrats lie about this ad nauseum. Or maybe not. I think, Logan, let's go to the one that says the lie on the border.
Republicans keep saying Biden doesn't need Congress. He can stop what's happening at the border all by himself. Can you fact check that for us? Because we here all know that's not true.
Republicans have been saying, largely wrongly, right? Because saying that the president can close the border unilaterally on his own. The president actually doesn't have the authority under law to do that.
There's only so much President Biden can do with executive action, and he did try to do whatever he could.
They actually are doing everything they can. The president's hands are tied. There's only so much that he can do.
President Biden has issued certain executive orders, but there's only so much he can do within his purview.
What an intractable problem this is for the president, with no easy solutions.
No easy solutions here.
There are no easy solutions here, folks.
The president insisting there's only so much he can do without Congress.
How much can actually be done quickly without Congress acting? How would this happen without the power of the purse, without Congress getting involved?
They need Congress to act to fix the broken immigration system.
This cannot happen without Congress resourcing this.
There's only so much a president can do with his pen and his phone.
Called me. Never called me. Say, what do you think? Or anyone like me, what do you think? Here's what the truth is. And Donald Trump said this on Tuesday night. Listen to this.
Since taking office, my administration has launched the most sweeping border and immigration crackdown in American history, and we quickly achieved the lowest numbers of illegal border crossers ever recorded. Thank you. The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president. Thank you.
What an incredible way to end a week on a Friday. We all need to say prayers for Donald Trump, and we all need to get on our knees and thank God that he allowed Donald Trump to be our president. Have a great weekend.
You are watching World